Hi, I'm Joe, and you're watching the Joke. So this is the start of my post-mortem. Essentially, I just want to break apart, kind of the process. Not really break apart the process of how I made Sam's New Year, but kind of the resulting successes and failures of the project. So yeah, I wrote them down here. I'll be going through them and explaining kind of just my thoughts on the whole thing. Okay, so starting with the ways I think the project succeeded. Um, I finally got to use Sam in an animation. I think that was like pretty successful. I've been trying to do it for I think about a year, like since I created him. So I'm really glad that I got to use Sam in a project. Following that, I think I made a simple and clear narrative. Once I started with the project, I tried to create stories for the first few months. If I was continuing with the project, like doing the February animation, I would have made it another simple thing, kind of just like Sam giving Valentine's gifts to a girl, maybe having a competitor, or maybe he's just giving way too many gifts, maybe the girl's ignoring him. So yeah, starting kind of like with that thought process, I went for the New Year's. So just like I tried to figure out what was important in New Year's, and essentially, I tried to also make it not too like country specific. So I just thought New Year's, the first thing I think of is like the midnight kiss, the Times Square globe dropping. Like everyone likes to watch that. But the one thing is fireworks. Like every New Year's, I stay up. I wait for the fireworks. So essentially, I tried to animate just like a simple celebration. Sam setting off fireworks and then looking at his work. So started off with him setting up the fireworks, moving to him getting to a safe distance so he can launch the fireworks, and then the fireworks exploding in the sky and him enjoying it. Just a simple 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of scene. And I think that was actually just really good, especially since it was a bit on the fly and I kept having to just like think about how would this look if someone else was doing it? How should I animate this? So I think that turned out really well. Um, Following that success was, let's see what I have written down here. Um, was able to use the particle system. Okay, yeah, because I think the start of this year is the first time I've ever like fully delved into the particle system. I kind of delved into it when I was doing the Owl House glyph animations. So producing the fire effect, I delved into the particle system, but I never really fully understood it. I think I'm getting a better understanding now, and that's thanks to using it for the fireworks. And following that, I just tried playing around with the fluid simulation, and that actually was pretty fun. So I don't know what I'll do with that later in the future, but I think it just helped me get into the minutia of the particle system. So that was like a really big success. And finally, on the list of successes is the texturing. So for the texturing, there were two things I textured. There were the spirals on the fireworks, which was not procedural. Essentially, what I did, it's kind of procedural, kind of not. So what I did for that was that I took a piece of paper, I wrapped it around a water bottle, then I drew spirals along the perimeter of the paper. Then when I unfolded the paper, I could see the pattern it generated, and I figured out like, oh, okay, I can recreate this in a vector program for the spirals on the fireworks. So I was really proud of that. I was able to make like a perfect spiral, in my opinion. And any parts like the seams that were left over from me not procedurally generating it, but instead doing it by hand in a vector program, I was able to cover up using procedural texture generation. So I think that's the first time I've ever done kind of anything with procedural textures without like having to go and look for a tutorial. And like that pride carries into like the second thing, which was the texture for the landscape. Yeah, the texture for the landscape. So the texture for the landscape is just a plane that then I took into the sculpt mode and I raised the two ends of it, kind of added some bumpy texture and a cut through the middle for a river. So for that, I was trying to figure out, okay, how am I gonna texture this? Because I don't want to do full-on texture painting with grass and everything. I don't even know. I want to go grab a seamless texture and just plug it in. But then just like, would I have to paint, make a brush out of the seamless texture? So yeah, that's where my head was at when I was making the landscape. But what happened in the end is that I decided I'd use the logic of chroma keying. So in chroma keying, you have the ability to switch out one color, chroma, and place something in its place, which is the key part. So I found 3 seamless textures, one for grass, one for sand, one for gravel. So I painted the areas I wanted to see in grass green. I painted the areas I wanted to see in gravel gray, and I painted the areas I want to see in sand color. Like it's like creamy eggshell kind of color. And then I created a chroma key system out of the nodes. That was actually something I was really proud of. Yeah, I might actually do like just a separate video of how I did that. I know I recorded footage, I recorded voiceover as well, so I might put that out later. But yeah, that was a lot of the successes, the things I have pride in. But then there was also a few drawbacks to doing this process, and also a few faults in the way I did this process. So yeah. I have that list here as well, and I'll start that just now. So, starting off the top of the list of the failures for this video. Well, the video itself, after I posted, didn't perform as well as I thought it would. Didn't perform as well as most other things I post. So that was a bit disheartening, but it isn't really like the contributing factor, kind of contributing factor to why I'm going to stop this project for now. It definitely was kind of like the cherry on the top of the factors of why I'm putting this project on hold. The main reason is this second point in my list of failures is I did not anticipate it taking so long, and because of that, a lot of mistakes were made in the process of making the video. Yeah, a lot of it came from me just moving on from parts before I considered them fully done. Mostly because I wanted to get it out before January ends. That's why if I pick up this project again in the future, I'm going to do all the animations and release it maybe like the following year. So if I pick this up later in this year, I would be releasing the videos pre-scheduled during the next year. Some of the mistakes that arose were I wasn't able to add the water simulation in. That was due to time and also the fact that after simulating the particle effects for the fireworks, and I feel like I simulated something else that I can't remember. Oh yeah, the fireworks had 2 particle effects. The actual effect that showed Happy New Year and the particle effect for the smoke when the fireworks are shot out of the cylinder, the canister. Canister is wrong. Cylinder. Yeah, so because of that, my the computer is already having a hard time rendering everything, even just pre-rendering the animation, so I could see if everything was set up correctly, paced correctly. It's a miracle that anything was paced how I wanted it to. In the end, it was surprising when I got to the end of the project. Everything was paced so well. Uh, Yeah, but just because of that, I couldn't add in the river simulation, even though I cut out a specific part in the landscape to add the river. Following that, the next failure is the cuts between the shots were choppy. So when I was doing the animation, I needed to capture it from different angles, essentially. So the animation is just, it's a normal, how do I explain it? The animation is like walking in the park, but the cuts and all the camera placements is essentially trying to figure out how to film that. There's definitely a better way to explain it, but I don't have it. But yeah, so I needed to figure out all the angles I wanted to shoot Sam at. So sadly, I don't think I had any post, like fix it in post, like post editing. I was planning to maybe do a bit of post editing on the camera shots, add maybe like a sliding effect or a fade in, fade out. I think that would have made it a bit less choppy and kind of a bit more fluid. But I didn't have time to do that. So yet again, the project took longer than I thought. Time caught up, and I didn't have time to do good post editing for the animation. Let's see. The next issue I had with it was the animation during the walk. So yeah, this is also another consequence of time. Um, so after Sam loads in the firework, it's supposed to be like the firework stars. There's a part where he's just like reaching down, grabbing something and putting it in. That's supposed to like symbolize him putting in the firework stars. I never actually made objects for the firework stars themselves. Um, I didn't think I needed it because they were kind of obscured by the camera anyways. So yeah, that was the reason for that. But after that, Sam stands up and walks away. So the parts in that I think were really choppy were him turning away to walk up the hill. Then while he's walking up the hill, there were a few sections. I think I just messed up a part of the walk cycle because I was trying to do it from memory at the time. I was rushing, so I think I missed one step in the walk cycle, which really just made it hard because he was walking up a diagonal surface. So it was then harder for me to recover anything in the time I had. So I essentially just tried to make the edit so it doesn't look like he's clipping through the mountain as he's walking up. Yeah, that's why that happened, and I didn't like how that looked at the end, but I think altogether the animation came out well, even if it had that issue. It just wasn't as smooth as I'd liked, but it's also not a really bad attempt animating with Sid. And talking about the walking, that brings us to the last point in my list of the failures for this project, was that I apparently did not rig Sam properly for animating. There was something wrong with his spine that I just couldn't fix because, yet again, the time constraints. I didn't have time to fix it. So I just kind of did a rush job of reconnecting the bones that existed there. But his spine, something was flipped. Like the center bone was flipped, or the pelvis bone wasn't connected correctly. Something with that was just wrong. So it kind of made it harder to do like the proper walking. It feels okay. I tried to make Sam for root motion animation. It feels like he he was there, but something was wrong with the spine. Like everything else moved like it should in a root animation rig, but just the spine, the pelvis, I couldn't turn him correctly. I kept having to reposition him as soon as like I moved the legs. Yeah, it was just kind of a mess doing that, which contributed to the clunky walk cycle up the hill. So yeah, as far as the project goes, I think that's it. I'm really proud of the outcome of the project. The failures, while small, were kind of accumulating and hit the project hard. But I am still happy that I made it. I think the product is pretty good for a first attempt, and I can now learn from this for the future if I want to do an animation like this again. And I'll plan ahead to ensure the same mistakes don't arise. Either way, that's it. So I know this video is kind of a bit of a departure from what I usually do. So for those who liked it, that's awesome. For anyone who watched it, thanks for watching. And yeah, it just felt like the right thing to do with the flow of the way everything went with the animation. But if you do just want to catch some of my regular content, you can click up here to the left, where I have the last project video I did. And if you want to check out the rest of my art, please click up here to the right, where I have a playlist full of it. And if you want to catch what I'm doing next, please hit that notification bell and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and joke out!